Welcome to the Service Impact Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Google Ads for service businesses, and we work with a ton of service businesses at Outside Communications, and to discuss this all-important topic, I'm being joined right now by Stacey Abler. She's the Director of Digital at Outside Communications, and how are you doing today, Stacey?
I'm doing great. How are you, Lance?
I am awesome, and we talk about this particular subject every single day because this is what we do. And service businesses, I mean, honestly, ads can be the lifeblood of new opportunities and leads, and it's a pretty important issue as you're looking through all the channels and all the places that a service company will get leads. These ads are kind of important, aren't they?
Yes, most definitely.
All right. Well, so, I think a lot of people think of service businesses as, for instance, your home services dominate. But there's professional services, there's attorneys, and there's plastic surgeons, and there's, all sorts of, there's medical practices that exist. There's also different types of businesses. Those are hyperlocal businesses, but we've also got the businesses that have a national footprint. We're running ads that might see customers from all over the place. Consulting companies are notorious for this. SaaS has a lot of this. So we've got a lot as we're kind of setting this up and teeing up this conversation. There are a lot of different service business types, and we tend to work with a bunch of these different types of companies.
Yes, and the strategy for each one is different. So, if you're looking at hyperlocal ads, so I'm looking for, a plumber near me, then those tend to be very high intent searches, and so we definitely want to be there for that. Versus, if it was workers' comp consulting, making things up, but something that would be more of a nationwide search. Like I could just be in the research space for that. I could just want to know what it is. There's, there tend to be like a much higher level at a nationwide tech search like that. And so it's a different strategy versus the people who are looking for plumber near me. Which typically means like, hey, there's an issue and I need somebody to come and help. So it's a very, if I can find the person, then I'm going through with it, versus someone who is more of that, nationwide, search could be more of a generic and it's dealt with differently.
Are we seeing more on the nationwide, side? Are we seeing more of a, AI? Are we seeing more AI-generated results for these broader searches?
Yes, I think AI-generated results are coming up pretty much across the board now. You're hard-pressed to find one that doesn't. I've actually seen people who are trying to come up with tricks to be able to avoid having AI show up as one of the search results, and those are getting few and far between for how you can get that to happen. So I think they're pretty much across the board, whether it's a local search or more of a nationwide search. You're getting those answers with that AI overview. And Google's also just recently introduced the AI mode, which is another tab that is on Google. And that is where you can have like a chat GPT type conversation, and going back and forth with it. So it's even more in depth on the AI side of things. I was testing that out, and if you ask the same question in search as what you ask in AI mode, then your AI overview and your AI mode will be identical to each other, or at least on the ones that I've done. But yes, so I think AI is definitely influencing that. And obviously, that also leads to zero-click searches, which just means that, someone is doing the search and I'm not clicking on anything. And it's not necessarily that the results weren't relevant, but I was able to get my answer from the AI overview and I didn't have to go to a website to have to do that. And so, that brings up all kinds of interesting things on the marketing side of things and how to approach that.
Yeah, and it's coming at us quick, and it's there's never been a more interesting time in the ad market and the SEO market than right now, and it's actually it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think back to when I got going in this back in the early 2000s, and I thought there was lots of change then, but it's nothing compared to right now. I mean, this is moving at light speed, and for service businesses, that depend on these leads, it's there's also some, I think, maybe a little bit of nervousness. It's like, okay, are these programs, are these channels that we've built for years, are they gonna keep feeding us?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's always a concern, and it's something where you just have to stay on top of whatever Google's latest and greatest is that they're doing, or whatever it is that they're testing, and try to figure out how you can be a part of what they're doing now. The true organic search results are getting pushed further and further down the page. And so I think it's important to be able to approach it from a lot of different angles, whether that's from, maps, your Google business profile listing, from ads, from local service ads. Google just also announced that they're going to be allowing advertising within the AI results. So that also puts you closer to the top of the page with that, and could actually earn the click at that point, because obviously Google's going to want the click because that's how they get paid. So, it'll be interesting to see how that affects things going forward, with having the combination of ads and AI together within the same, snippet or box, so to speak.
So anybody that thought that they were just going to be giving away these AI search results and not throw ads into the mix, I mean, that was probably a little crazy thinking, right?
Right, exactly. So Google's always going to figure out how to monetize whatever it is that they're doing. It may take them a little longer to get there in some cases, but the ultimate goal is to make money. So they're not throwing things out there for free just to do it.
So I guess the point is right now is like either have somebody in house that's staying on this stuff, or hire an agency that is all about this stuff and all about staying on top of it. And and as we go through these scenarios and you're not really hearing your scenario, feel free to reach out to us. It's we'll talk shop. I mean, that's what we do is we help companies, and sometimes they're customers and sometimes they're not. So feel free to reach out. You've got some interesting statistics here, and I think, it's interesting. I'm familiar with a few of these, but it's interesting when we work with clients that maybe haven't developed an ad channel, search channels previously, and they start hearing these statistics. It's like, holy smokes, are we a little bit behind the times? So maybe you could, I know you've got a few queued up, but maybe you could pass those along to our listeners.
Yeah. So, I mean, Google continues to be the dominant search engine. And YouTube is actually one of the biggest search engines that is out there, which is also owned by Google, of course. And the top search term in the United States in 2024 was YouTube. And so it is just continuing to show that it's not just about your, the words of organic search anymore. It can be about the visual component, whether that's in images or video, the way that you're showing up in the AI overviews, your local search, your maps. There's lots of different ways, and you really have to master all of them. And it is something that can be difficult to stay on top of. Google just had their kind of annual, here's all the new things that we're doing and what's coming up and those kinds of things. And I mean, I have a document that goes over all of the changes, and I think it's 55 pages long, of everything that they announced. And so that's a lot to stay on top of. And that's just the things that they're telling you about. And Google is notorious for making changes, especially on the SEO side, without necessarily giving you a great idea about what went into that change behind the scenes. So it's a lot to stay on top of, and it's a lot of different moving pieces to all fit together to be able to promote your business online. So there's also, $154 billion was spent on Google Ads, which is just like a mind blowing figure when you see that amount of money that's going into that ads product. So of course, Google's definitely going to be looking at ways to be able to expand that and to increase that number in the future.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, I mean, we started off, this is, this podcast topic here is Google Ads for service businesses. And then we immediately started talking about search. But there's a crossover, and maybe you could explain that, because that's got to be confusing for some. There's a very blurry line between the search ads market that we're so active in for service businesses and the SEO search market, the channel that is SEO, and this AI search. I mean, it's all kind of all together. So maybe you could connect some dots so that the person listening going, hey man, you're not talking at all about what you said you were going to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they all play together. Right. So, if a business goes out there and is like, I'm only going to run Google Ads, I'm not worried about, organic search. I don't care about my local listings, all of that. I mean, will you have some success? Sure. But you'll have much more if you integrate all of those things together. Right? Because what you want to do is when someone is searching for that service within your area, or if you're a nationwide business, whatever it happens to be, then you want to own that search result, so to speak. So you want to show up in maps, in an ad, in organic search for your Google business profiles there. You have a mention in the AI overview. So all of those things work together. And when someone is searching and it's continually saying, business ABC, 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 then that has an impact too, as far as like what is their interpretation or their impression of the reputation of that business. If they're promoted in all these places, then this business must be the end all be all, right? So that's the one I'm going to go with. So I think it's a strategy that crosses multiple things. And while Google Ads is super important, obviously I'm a big proponent of that, you do need all of the elements to make everything work together and to have the biggest impact of your business for that person who's searching.
Yeah, having 3 results above the fold is never bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, we don't we've got a customer that's looking for a service, and it's like, we don't care how he converts or she converts or the person converts. I don't care if it's, in our organic search channel or ads channel, or, they get to us through a recommendation in an AI result, which is now becoming more and more of a thing. It's like, we don't care how we convert. We just need to convert. And so, yes, we have seen customers that have really built out organic search channels, and then it's really there's an inertia that's I guess you'd say completed as you get all these boxes checked. Now you're cooking with gas. You're really, because there's the ads channel, the SEO channel, but really it's all a search channel. And so it's I think that's something that people miss, is they've checked one box and they think that's it, or internally they have this idea that search doesn't really matter and it's search is dead, or what have you. And I think they find out later on, it's like, wow, there's some meat on the bones here. So let's get into some ad types, and as we're talking about, these different weapons, if you will, these different tools in the toolbox for service companies, you've got different ads for different types of things. And it's like, what? Wait a minute here. I thought I was just running ads. And it's like, no, there's different tools in this toolbox. Maybe you could get into some of these.
Yeah. So, one quick point on the previous topic, just real quick before we move on, is that I do think that when you do have the SEO strategy, you've got the local strategy, you've got ads working, like all of these things, it does also help to kind of future-proof you against those changes that are happening. The likelihood that everything drops off at one time is not great, right? So they'll make a change to the way organic works, but your ad's still there and your local presence is still there. And then that gives you that chance to be able to make whatever changes you need to on the organic side. So that's just another benefit of being like across the board and looking at it holistically instead of zeroing in on that one channel. But so moving on to the ad types, Google Ads has lots of different ad types that you can run, and each one of them serves a particular purpose. First and the most obvious is just the search ad campaigns. So this is when someone is doing a search for whatever product or service, and you see that ad that typically shows at the top of the screen. Sometimes that AI overview will be above it. But that's your search ad that is showing there, and those ads will only show in search in that particular format. So you also have display ads, which are more of the typical like image ads that people are used to seeing in, the top of a website. Where's the banner? You have them down like the side of the page, things like that. So you have those. You can do a specific YouTube campaign. So where you have video assets and you're showing that and targeting that towards your market or those people who may be interested in your product or service. And then two of the newer ad types are, I guess, three actually. Performance Max is the oldest of those, but that is one where AI has a lot to do with that one in the way that it is determining how to target those ads. So you give it some inputs and then it does its thing. But the good thing with Performance Max is that it goes across almost every Google channel that there is. So you show up in search, display, maps, Gmail, YouTube, Discover. So lots of different places where that Performance Max ad can show. And then local service ads or local search ads are one of the other new things that were introduced. And you will see these in certain categories only. But these are typically for local providers of services. So you could have, say, like HVAC. And that's one of the categories that's allowed. And those will show up typically at the very top of the page. They'll have a Google Guaranteed badge assigned to them. Also can show up in Maps. And because those are sitting above everything else, and they typically do very well. And especially because of the kinds of businesses that they allow in those searches for those do tend to be higher intent people, who are searching, who are ready to convert when they're doing that search. And then the last one that we have that is relatively new is Demand Gen is what it's called. And so this is similar to Performance Max, but Performance Max tends to be very conversion oriented, lower funnel. This person's ready to convert. Demand Gen tends to be more brand awareness. You're getting, your information out there about your service or your product or your business. And it tends to focus on more of the like visual channels that Google has. So you're looking more at like YouTube and Discover, some display, like things like that, which are more, kind of getting the impressions out there and starting to build awareness about your brand. And maybe a little less on the conversion side. But when you put Demand Gen and Performance Max together, because you've got the higher funnel and you've got the low mid funnel, then those can work very well together. And all those different ad types have different creatives that go into it, different kinds of ad copy, different settings. The local service ads have there's an application process to go through, because if Google's going to put their guaranteed badge on it, then they want to make sure that they know who they're guaranteeing. So it's even to the extent of where there are background checks on any employees that you have that would have interactions with consumers in their homes. So there's a lot of different things that go into each different ad type, and then deciding like which one is the best ad type for your particular business. And in a lot of cases, as long as the budget allows, then we want to be across all of them because we want to be able to hit consumers wherever it is that they are looking for that product or service that you offer.
So how much does, let's say, the copy, okay, you've got all these ads, but how much does the copy and then the ensuing landing page, I mean, how much does that have to do with how well these ads are going to perform?
I think it has a huge impact on how well they perform, right? So whatever your ad copy is, then that's what the person's first impression really of your business could potentially be, is seeing that ad copy. And the way that Google is working now is that you would put in, say, they all differ a little bit, but let's say 15 headlines and 4 to 5 descriptions. And then Google's going to mix and match those based on the person who is searching, exactly what they search, where they're located, everything that it knows about that particular person who searched, and to put together, a headline and a couple, maybe 2 descriptions. It could be some other combination of those. But it's incredibly important to have that. And so Google does give you the data to show like which ones they're showing more, which theoretically you can say are the ones that are leading to clicks and conversions. In some cases, we are getting that data now. So you can start to see like how different things are performing, and what you need to do to go in and try to optimize that ad copy. But I think it's really important to be able to set yourself apart with that. And a lot of times that is what will influence whatever your click-through rate is. So, if I am searching for a particular service and this ad pops up and it's like spot on for what it is that I'm looking for, then I'm more likely to click versus if, I'm searching for a plumber near me and the ad that pops up is for, air conditioning service, right? So it has a big impact on that, and just what the traffic that you're driving to your website, and can also influence the quality of the traffic that you're driving to your website. So the more specific those ads are, and that I know that like, this is my service or this is my product, this is what I'm looking for, then, that traffic is going to be a lot more qualified than if I have just more like generic ad copy that doesn't really speak to a lot. And then someone clicks through and is like, oh, well, that's not really what I was looking for. And you just paid for a click for non-qualified traffic. So I think it makes a huge impact. And then of course, when we get to the landing page, then that's something that's often overlooked, by businesses as well as ad agencies. And it's a very important part of the process because that's where they're actually going to convert. So, we want to make sure that we have a strong headline on that page that's relevant to whatever the ad was. We want to make sure that we have a strong call to action. What do we want them to do? So, if we want them to fill out a form, if we want them to call, whatever that action is, we want to make sure that that is above the fold on mobile and desktop so that you can get that conversion. I mean, I don't even know how many landing pages that we go in and look at when we take over an account, and there's no call to action on the page. So you're paying for this traffic to come to your site, and then you're not telling the consumer what to do or even giving them the option to do something without having to really click around and find that, whatever the conversion point is. So I think the landing pages can really make or break the experience. A lot of places try to put too much on a landing page. And typically when we're doing testing, we find out that the pages that are more simplified are the ones that will convert better. So I need the information that I'm looking for that before I convert, but I don't need a thesis before I do that in most cases, right? So it's going in and just doing a lot of testing. There's things as simple as the color of the button that can make a big difference on what your conversion rate is and just like how it stands out on the page. If everything on the page is blue, then your button doesn't really stand out, versus if I have a contrasting color there, then I'm more likely to, kind of zero in on the thing that's different on the page, which is your conversion point at that point.
Yeah, I'm being joined right now by Stacey Abler. She's the Director of Digital Marketing at Outside Communications. And we're talking about Google Ads for service businesses. And our final topic of discussion and is an interesting one with all the help that Google offers today. I mean, can you get these things rocking and then just set it and forget it?
No, absolutely not. So I think that is the idea that a lot of people have about Google Ads and SEO, any kind of marketing thing. And it's just like, well, I did that, now I'm done. And that's not the way that it works. So everything can continually and should be continually optimized. Should be going in and testing different things. From like an ads perspective, especially on the search side, then you want to be like reviewing your search terms. Like, what is it that's triggering your ads, and making sure that you're excluding things that are irrelevant. Testing your ad copy, testing your landing pages, testing keyword expansion. Even the way that you have like your ad groups broken out. Can you be like more specific about it and deliver even higher quality traffic because you've got a super specific ad group with, this specific ad copy is going to a landing page that's specifically about that topic. Then the people who are clicking through and following that process are probably much more likely to convert than something that is more general and you try to do one ad that covers every single product or service that you offer. So I think it's very important that that's managed and that you also have someone who knows what to go in and test and change and optimize, because there are settings that you can miss when you're going in, and that setting can impact the entire campaign. I mean, I can tell you that I took over an ad account that was very localized. They provided landscaping services within 15-mile radius of where they lived. And when I took over the account, I was like, wow, this thing has a lot of impressions for their budget and where they're located. And when I went in and started doing the audit, as I do, to go in and check every single setting in the account and to see where things are, they were actually targeting worldwide. So there was tons of wasted ad spend. And so it's things like that where you need someone who knows what they're doing within the platform and what to change and what not to change. And it's just a continual process of optimization. Anyone who is like, oh, like we did the initial setup and now we're done, now we're just going to coast, is not managing your account properly.
Stacey, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing all this insight on Google Ads for service businesses. And if you're interested in more marketing content for your service business or a company that you're working for or with, head over to serviceimpact.com. We'd love to have you join us there and on future editions of the Service Impact podcast.